So this is my new series called Bible Tea, and this is where I'm going to be reading the Bible, every book in the Bible, including those from the Apocrypha, everything. So if you have a traditional way of looking at the Bible, this series is not for you, boo. It's not for you, because I plan on interpreting the Bible basically like I'm reading a novel. We are told what the Bible says and what the Bible means. So this is my way of opening all our eyes, including mine, because I'm one of those people that have never read the Bible from front to back. Ever. Okay? I've gone to Bible school. I've been in church. I know certain scriptures and passages because of going to church, but I can't say that I know the full story of the Bible or how any of these things relate to anything in the Bible. So this is where we start. So if you want to follow along with me, please do so. And in Genesis 11, okay, as the earth is being repopulated, and again, this is thousands of years after the earth has been created, okay, by God. Period. The people are repopulated and they're working together and they're building, a community and a town. And the Lord comes down and sees that they are creating a tower and they're creating these things. And the Lord, once again, is like, oh no, I don't like that. I don't like that at all. If y'all could do this with community, what else can y'all do? Especially if y'all put y'all imagination to it, what y'all gonna do? So he's like, let us confuse them. Now, back in the Garden of Eden, he also referred to Adam and Eve becoming like us when they ate that apple. Us. Who is us? Christianity teaches us there's one God. So who is us? Who is us? And I also want to point out how the Lord sees community and sees the people working together and is somehow intimidated by that. It's mighty suspicious to me. But again, if we really think about today's society, it doesn't seem unfamiliar. So in Genesis 11, the Bible follows the lineage all the way down from Noah to Abram and his wife Sarai. Spoiler alert, Abram and Sarai become Abraham and Sarah. And we'll get into that later. The Lord, all caps, and because I'm going to differentiate the names, the Lord calls on Abram, which honestly seems like a call to fame. And Abram goes on to build all of these altars to the Lord as he makes his way to Egypt as the Lord commanded. Now, this is where I really start what? Okay? Because when they get to Egypt, right, Abram knows that there's this Pharaoh there that is going to really be attracted to Sarai. So before they get to Egypt, Abram goes to his wife, Sarai, and is like, all right, look, so when we get there, I don't want them to kill me. So why don't you just tell the Pharaoh that I'm your brother and you are my sister. We are not husband and wife. Because I want to be able to be treated well too. And I don't want for them to kill me. Okay. So Sarai does this. Okay. And she has some dealings with the Pharaoh. And it's crazy to me how this man is just pimping his wife out so that he can be treated well and that, he don't got to fight or, he not killed. That don't sound familiar either. Okay. So the Pharaoh took Sarai and her brother husband in, okay? And the Pharaoh is courting Sarai, and the Pharaoh treats Abram very well because he thought Abram was Sarai's brother. However, the Lord ended up cursing the Pharaoh for being with Sarai. So the Pharaoh and them in there like, ooh, we sick. Oh, what's going on? What's happening right now? Hold on. All of a sudden, we got sick when y'all came. And somehow, they don't really explain it in the Bible. Somehow, the Pharaoh finds out that Abram is Sarai's husband. So now, he's like, Abram, why'd you come in here with her telling me that this was your sister and this is your wife and we all sick in here? Y'all got to get out. Y'all got to go right now. Get out. Right now. And you know what? Take everything you done touched too. I don't even want it no more. Take it with you. Take everything. So voila, voila. Abram is now a rich man. He has all this wealth and servants and cattle. All because he pimped out his wife. Again, that don't sound familiar to y'all. Anywho, Abram was also traveling during this time with his cousin Lot. So Lot, L-O-T, was also with Abram and Sarai. And after being casted out from the Pharaoh's palace or whatever it was they was in, castle, whatever it was called back then, okay, they go on their separate ways into, some part of Egypt, okay, and now with all their wealth and, their crews, Lot and his crew and Abram and his crew, they start beefing. So Abram and Lot and their crews decide to go separate ways. Abram settled near a place called Canaan, I think is how you pronounce it. I don't know, y'all. I'm not a scholar here. And that is one of the names of one of Noah's sons, okay? When Abram got to Canaan, he built another altar to the Lord with sacrifices and things of that nature. And Lot and his crew settled near the town of Sodom. Now, this is where Sodom and Gomorrah come into play. So in Genesis 14, Sodom was raided and overtaken, and Abram had to go save Lot, basically, from Sodom. So in comes another name, which is God the Most High. All right, so we had God in Genesis 1, we had Lord God in Genesis 2, and then like 4 or something, we had the Lord, and now we have God the Most High, creator of heaven and earth. All right, and in comes the first mentioned priest. Okay, so the king of Sodom and the priest of Salem, after this war over Sodom that Abram went to go save Lot from, the king and the priest and Abram are now splitting up the goods from the war. The priest was like, praise to God, the Most High, creator of heaven and earth. He brought us, a victory through you. King of Sodom was like, give me the people. You take the goods. And Abram was like, no, God, the Most High, creator of heaven and earth, told me not to accept anything from you, sir. You will not ever be able to say that you made me rich. I will not give you that credit. Just let me have the stuff that we ate and, the goods that we used, and we're going to go on about our way. So later that day, Abram created another altar and did some sort of ritual by cutting up animals and asserting them a specific way around the altar. There's something about this that just seems so ritualistic, so very physically ritualistic to me, but I digress. As Abram creates this altar, the Lord brings a vision to Abram. And in this vision, the Lord tells Abram that he'll have children. Now, what I did not mention before was Sarai was infertile. She was unable to have a child. They had been trying, couldn't have a child. So in this vision, the Lord comes and says, Abram, you're going to have children. And, for 4 generations, your children are going to be mistreated and be enslaved. But I'll punish the nation that punishes them. And the kids will get the possession of the land that they were enslaved in, basically. So after this ritual, right, this is where we get to Genesis 16. They have all these servants and riches and stuff from, bamboozling that Pharaoh, right? So Sarai is like, take one of my maids and have a baby with her. Let her birth the children. But Sarai started to kind of hate on the slave once she was able to conceive a child. And the slave was like, hey, yo, Abram, she's mistreating me. And Abram told his wife, like, look, this your slave. Do what you want with her. She just here to have a baby. I don't care what you do with that lady. So Sarai mistreated this woman. And the girl ends up running away. And one of the Lord's angels finds the slave, trying to flee, and is like, go back to your mistress. What you doing? And she was like, no, that lady is mean. Why would I want to go back there? But the angel then promised her that, she will have increased descendants and lineage, and she have more kids. However, she's going to have to name the child Ishmael. And in that vision, I believe the Lord also told Abram that he would have to name his first child Ishmael. So fast forward, the slave ends up having Abram's baby. And rightfully so, they named the child Ishmael. So then once they have the baby, the Lord comes down and is like, you need to circumcise that baby. You need to cut that foreskin off that meat. So again, this is where this to me seems like a bribe. I ain't even gonna hold you. He's like, you need to circumcise that baby. All right, cut that foreskin off that meat. Okay, and if you do that with this baby and yourself and anyone around you, any male that comes into your lineage, okay, you cut the skin off of all the meats. All right, I promise to give you Sarai and a baby if you do that for me. And again, this is where he promises the Lord. He promises more, fame. Your name will be great, and, you will build nations, and, you'll have, a huge lineage. And he promises Ishmael will be the father of 12 rulers. This to me, again, seems like a call to fame, a promise. If you do this for me, I'm going to do that for you. Now, this is where the Lord gives them new identities. He's like, you're not Abram and Sarai anymore. You're Abraham and Sarah. You become Abraham and Sarah. So the very next day, Abraham takes himself, Ishmael, and all of the men around him, and he goes and cuts that foreskin off that meat. Expeditiously. Now we get to Genesis 18, okay? And this is where the Lord appeared, then Abraham now saw 3 men that stood there. So the Lord appeared with 2 other men. And just in the prior, y'all, listen. I'm trying to keep a unbiased opinion here, but this is getting real sci-fi to me, to be honest. Okay, so the Lord appeared in the tree somewhere, and then Abraham saw 3 men that stood there. And when he saw the 3 men, he was basically like, "Oh my God, kneeled on bended knee. I'm your servant. Let me wash your feet. Let me get you some food. Let me get you something to drink." And he did just that. Had everybody make them some food, make sure they milk the cow or the goat or whatever it is they got the milk from, was washing the men's feet. And one of the Lord's lower cap, this is another variation, one of the Lord's said, about next time this year, Sarah's going to have her baby. And Sarah was standing in the doorway and laughed under her breath like, yeah, all right, I'm old. Yeah, okay. And one of the lords was like, what you laughing for? Is there anything too hard for the Lord? All caps. That's Lord, all caps. Is there anything too hard for the Lord? Now we got the low cap lords referring to all cap lords. Nobody ever really mentions this. Oh, okay. And Sarah was like, nah, I didn't laugh. And the Lord was like, yeah, you did. Now, this is where I have to reference the Sefer text, right? Because in the Bible, it very clearly shows in the Bible that there is capital L and sometimes all caps Lord, and then there is Lord lowercase l. But nobody contextualizes that. Like, how do we skip past that? Just like how do we skip past God and Lord all caps and lowercase Lord? How do we skip past and say this is just all one being? When it clearly states that some of them is going up, God is going up, and the Lord appears, and the small lords are with the big capital letter lords. Nobody's talking about this in it's right there in the Bible. We not reading it. Oh, okay. And I'm really not trying to sound like a conspiracy theorist, but again, I'm reading the Bible as if I'm reading a piece of literature or as if I am reading a novel, right? And you need to know the different characters. So you can't assume that Sarah is Ashley when they got two separate names. You feel me? And it's clear to me that there are at least 4 variations of what in Christianity is considered to be one being. That to me is kind of a little off kilter, just off of the first 20 pages. However, what I see in the Sefer is there's Elohim, there's Yahuwah, there's Rosh Yahuwah, there's Adonai, which is the Lord, akin to Lord here, right? So Adonai means masters or lords. Okay. Why aren't we using our skills of comprehension here? Is it just me? Is it just me? So again, back to the walking of Lord. The Lord and his 2 lords walked on, and Abraham escorted them, right? And so the Lord is like, should I tell Abraham what I'm about to do? And the Lord said, I see those folks down in Sodom and they sinning. They sinning, and sinning ain't winning. Okay? I got to go do something about it. So now Abraham is, I keep calling him Abram. Abraham is now like, wait a minute, I think the Lord about to kill these people. And he's like, well, what about the innocent people? What about the people like who ain't got nothing to do with the sinning? Like, what if there's, 50 innocent people? Then he was like, wait, well, what if it's 40? Well, what if it's 30? Well, what about 20? What about 10? You gonna kill them too? And the Lord was like, no, I'm not gonna kill them. If it's 10 people, I'll spare the whole city. I'm not gonna do that. Now keep that in mind. Then we get to Genesis 19, and the 2 lords, left from Abram and started going down to Sodom. And they reached Sodom to Lot's house, which is Abram's cousin, okay, that he split apart from. All right, so Lot is now in Sodom. And the 2 lords who are now referred to as angels, they go from lords in 18 to angels in 19. Clock that T. Lot invites them in for dinner, and they're like, nah, we're going to spend the night in the town, actually. And Lot was like, no, don't do that. Don't do that. Come in. Let me make you a real good dinner. It's going to be delicious. And they like, all right, cool. So while they making dinner, the townsmen surround Lot's house and tell the 2 angel lords, come outside so we can know you. What that booty do? That's really what they were saying for real. Like, come outside. Yeah, you came into our town. What's up? So essentially, the townspeople came to grape them. Okay. And I'm assuming that's what the sinning was that the Lord was talking about in Sodom. They down there graping and stuff, you know. Okay, so they like, come outside so we could take you. And Lot was like, nah, don't do that. Don't do that. Nah, don't do that. Nah. Look. Wait a minute. Hold on. I got 2 daughters in the house that have not known men. Yo, you can have them and do what you want with them, but not my guests. No, not my guests. Take my daughters. They married and have not known men. Take them instead, though. Do what you want. What? Mind you, these are his virgin daughters that he is offering up to be graped. What? The men are like, nah, bring them intruders that you done brought to this town. They done came to our town. Bring them outside so we can know them. And so the angels, lords, was like, Lot, all right, my boy, who you all got in here? Who you all got in here? All right, because the Lord about to come down and smite this place. It's about to be done. So who do you have so that y'all can go? We giving you a warning right now. Get your things and go, because this place is about to be no more. The Lord is coming down and everybody got to go. Everybody got to go. Now, mind you, Abram just was talking to the Lord, and he was like, "Nah, if it's innocent people down there, I ain't gonna, you know, do the thing to the whole town. You know, I'm a spare them." A group of men come around, and they like, "Oh nah, everybody gotta go. You trying to take me? Us? Oh yeah." Salt is what y'all will become, okay? So the angel lords was like, all right, Lot, who do you have? And Lot was like, you know, I got my wife, I got my 2 daughters, I got my son-in-laws and stuff. They here. He was like, all right, well, gather them and go. And he tells the son-in-laws, and the son-in-laws was like, they gonna do what? Yeah, all right. And the angels was like, oh, all right. So the next morning, the angels was like, hey, Lot, get your wife and your 2 daughters and get up out of here. You leave them son-in-laws right where they at. Leave them. Yeah. Leave them. Now, mind you, these people didn't try to grape. So why they got to be left? Why? Because they didn't believe that they was about to take out the whole town? I mean, huh? But the men got taken out with everybody else, okay? So Lot was like, look, I ain't gonna make it to the mountains, because that's where the angels told him to go. I ain't gonna make it to the mountains. Can I go over to the next town and, you know, then make my way? They're like, all right, we won't do nothing to the next town, but you gotta go right now, because the Lord is coming. So as they're making their way away, Lot and his wife are going to the other town, and his wife turns around and looks back at, you know, the chaos that's happening, and she turns into a pillar of salt. Okay. Now, this is where I talk about the homosexuality passage, right? And to me, it doesn't seem as though, right, the smiting was done because of that, but more so, this was because of intimidation and grape. Because they was like, let us know them. We don't care. Let us know them. You bring these strangers here, we're going to know them. And know means to know in the Bible, okay? So, I can see how people translate that to be, but I see this as being about graping. And angels was like, nah, y'all not about to take us. We about to take y'all. The end. It's the end of y'all life, okay? Y'all got to go. And I'm not even gonna hold y'all. It boils my blood at how discarded women are in this holy text. Like, huh? And it gets worse. The crazy thing is it gets worse. It gets worse. Okay. So now the sons-in-laws are salt. The wife is salt because she looked back. Okay. And now Lot is making his way up to the mountains to meet his daughters. Okay. And now the daughters don't have no husbands, and Lot doesn't have a wife. Okay. And time goes on, and they're like, well, we don't have no husbands. Like, how are we going to preserve this family line? So the two daughters are like, come, let's give our dad wine and get him drunk so that he doesn't remember. And then let's mount him so that we can have children. More graping. Okay. I just have no words for this at all. Like, huh? We be quoting the Bible, but who quoting this? Preserve your seed by sleeping with your pappy. Yeah, that'll do it. Now, everybody talks about Sodom and Gomorrah and homosexuality. However, ain't nobody talking about the very next verse or the very next chapter where them two daughters go up into that mountain and get their pappy drunk and mount him to have children. Nobody talks about that part of the same story. So that's about as far as I got. That was chapter 19 of Genesis. I am going to continue reading, and I will be back with more later. Bye.